to part 2 of your new member orientation. The second part of this series has to do with at the meeting. Again, as you will recall, you should have by now your competent communication and competent leader manuals. I'll say it again, these are your textbooks for your pathway to success, at least with Toastmasters anyway. These two manuals you should bring with you to every single meeting. They work in tandem with one another if you use them correctly. If you focus all on one aspect of it, it's kind of like building muscles. You're going to build up, you might end up with these massive bicep on this arm, little bitty skinny one on this one. So same kind of thing you want to do with this. You want to use these in a balance. So let's talk about how that happens. In the Competent Communication Manual, beginning on page, I believe, 66, it talks about your club and at the meeting. At the meeting, as you are aware because you've already been there are multiple roles to be filled. These are called functionary roles. Those functionary roles help the agenda to be able to be accomplished in a certain amount of time that's been allocated at your particular club. The various roles, functionary roles that are on that agenda are there for helping you to be able to achieve various goals. Some of those goals are clearly defined in our manuals. So beginning on page 66, there are a number of different roles that we're going to cover. Those roles are the Toastmaster, your evaluators, your table topics master or your topics master, your various functionaries like the timer, wordmaster and grammarian, and what is referred to in this country as the hesitation counter. In the manual you will see it as the awe counter. We're going to get to that momentarily. Then there's also the general evaluator. Also, in many of the clubs that you will be attending, there is something called the table topics evaluator. That person has a specific role as well. Last but not least is the role of the speaker. Can't forget that, because that is a role both in the Competent Communication Manual and the Competent Leader Manual. Let's tackle each one of these briefly, because I want you to go through the manual yourself and read what they do. So if you go to page 66 of your Competent Communication Manual and walk through each one of the different roles, you'll know what they do, or what their duties and responsibilities are during a meeting. So let's take a look at these. The first one is the Toastmaster. I'm not going to read from here, I'm just going to give you basically what they do. The Toastmaster's responsibility is to keep the meeting moving on an agenda, on a scheduled time frame for helping us to get in and out of the meeting on time. They help with transitions. That person will help for ensuring that different roles are identified and have an opportunity to perform at different times of the evening or during whatever time that you meet. That's the role of the Toastmaster. That person is in front of the club almost the entire time. So it's a pretty complex job. Don't let any of these jobs scare you though, because any one of them you can do with a little bit of practice, a little bit of coaching. So Toastmaster, they keep the meeting running. The next one will be the evaluator, or the speech evaluator. Speech evaluators are meant to give a 2 to 3 minute evaluation on the speaker's project goals, or the objectives. Each speaker gives a presentation from the project manual that they're working on, and an evaluator will review that project and give feedback at the meeting, both written and oral, to the speaker. One of the nice things about the evaluator's role is this, though. An evaluator isn't just to be giving feedback to the speaker. This is an opportunity for the evaluator to give a mini educational session on the project objectives and the project observations that they've taken in while evaluating. This gives the entire club an opportunity and guests to learn things that they observe about the speaker during their observation as an evaluator. To become a really good evaluator, become extremely familiar with the Toastmasters International resource called Effective Evaluations. There are a lot of other resources out there, but that really is your textbook for evaluations, effective evaluations. The resource, Effective Evaluations. The next role is the topics master. That person will select an idea, a concept, or a different type of subjects to deliver to the audience members so that they can give an impromptu response to them. They have 1 minute to 2 minutes to respond, they being the audience member that's being selected, to respond to the topic master's topic. The topic master, to do that job well, they first of all need to explain to the audience what the topic master does and what the topic master session is supposed to provide. The topic master should be focusing on those people, those members who have not got a role during the meeting, and guests. Guests should be given an opportunity to speak as on a topic as well. So the topic master wants to look for people who don't have roles and guests. It's probably not the best thing to do to always be selecting people who are well experienced in it. You might want to use one as an example, but don't spend a lot of time focusing on people who are seasoned in Toastmasters. But pick people who don't have a regular exposure to speaking. This is their opportunity. Topics master can be fun. Topic masters can be provocative. But topics masters is the opportunity at the front of the meeting to get people engaged. This is their opportunity for people who don't have a role to speak, as we all come to become more efficient, effective communicators and leaders. The next role, and these are in no particular order, the next role we'll say is the timer. The timer helps to keep the meeting on time. As public speakers, we want to become much acquainted with the various ways that are expected of us, or the various time expectations for us in regard to roles that we fill. So if we are asked to give a report on something, and we just need to give a report, and we have 2 minutes to do it, what kind of critical thinking skills do we have to implement, or what kind of time management tools do we need to implement to make sure that the person who is being observed is keeping to those time constraints? Because we want to be able to be sharp in the way we deliver information, and that sometimes requires that we use time. So in many of the speeches, they're 5 to 7 minutes. You can extend those sometimes, but really the project is designed, in the communication manual at least, to be able to be within 5 to 7 minutes, specifically to make the speaker condense their speech into a format that can be delivered during 5 to 7 minutes. The timer reports back to the club on how the different goals were achieved. The next one is the Word Master Grammarian. Now, a lot of people get scared about Word Master Grammarian, thinking, I don't know anything about grammar, I don't know how to do grammar. The reality of it is that what we're looking for in the grammarian is the ability to listen. This is a listening skill. And if you're listening to different things, like good word usage, or how a colorful phrase is being delivered, this is a good item for a grammarian to pick up on. You don't have to know whether or not an adverb is used correctly or an adjective is used correctly. You just need to be able to identify quality things that are happening. And if you see something that's an egregious type of action, then you can always gracefully mention how that could have been reworded in another way so that the person would benefit from an alternate use of a word. Oftentimes we combine Word Master and Grammarian together. The Word Master simply provides a word of the day that you can get from anywhere like dictionary.com, or you can Google it, word of the day. It'll pop up the word for the day. Use that. You will post it in front of the club, you post it at the back of the club by the timers table, and people will be encouraged to use that word of the day during the meeting. The next functionary role is the hesitation counter, or the ah counter, as you'll see in the book. I like to think of the ah counter as not a ah, but AH. Audible habits. Audible habits. Counter. So if you think of it as audible habits, rather than just double words and pregnant pauses, and you think of it as audible habits, you're listening more carefully to things that people do that may be a hindrance to being able to communicate their ideas, their thoughts, or their speech effectively. Remember, if there's any particular functionary role that really needs to embrace the Toastmasters values of respect, integrity, service, and excellence, it will be in the hesitation counter. You want to make sure that the audience, the club members that are assembled, and the guests that are there never feel uncomfortable because you're making observations in any of your evaluations. You don't want them to feel like you're being singled out or being treated in some way that doesn't show them respect. So remember that in all the roles, but particularly with the hesitation counter. The general evaluator's role, as you'll read in the manuals, is a functionary role in process at Chelmsford Speakers, for instance. It isn't done exactly according to the book, but the purpose of the general evaluator is to evaluate the evaluation team and to give feedback on the Toastmaster who would otherwise not receive feedback. So what you're looking for there as a general evaluator is making observations on general observations of the meeting, but more specifically, how do the evaluators do in evaluating a speaker or a functionary role or various other things that are being delivered to as reports to the club. General evaluator is a vital role on helping to tweak things that may begin to develop in a club that don't always embrace or don't always reflect, I should say is probably a better word, don't reflect the values of Toastmasters of respect, integrity, service, and excellence. The next aspect is, how do I sign up for these roles? How do I get in and sign up for a role as a Toastmaster or as an evaluator or as a counter, for instance? Well, you would have to go to the Chelmsford Speakers .toasthost.org website and sign in. When you became a member, you will have received an email from a member of our team who has sent you contact information, or excuse me, login information for getting onto the website. Log into the website and then go to meeting agendas. When you select meeting agendas, if you go to the column on the right where it says meeting agendas, you can click on that and it'll show you all of the available agendas that are available to members to sign up for. Browse through those until you see an opening for a particular functionary role or a speaker slot. If you're really eager to do a speech and they're all full, ask the Vice President of Education if they could add a fourth speaker slot so that you can get on and give a speech. Sometimes that's possible, sometimes that's not, depending on other things that are happening at a meeting. But it doesn't hurt to ask. So let's walk through how you do that. Log on to chelmsfordspeakers.freetoasthost.org. Log in there with your login information. Then go to Meeting Agendas. You'll locate that on the left-hand side of your screen. Click on Meeting Agendas. Once you get to Meeting Agendas, on the right-hand side at the very top, you'll see Other Agendas. The first one that shows up is for the next agenda. But if you click on the Other Agendas, click on that button on the right, it will drop down to Other Options. Once you've done that, it'll show you dates. Select the date that you're interested in and scan through there to see if there's any functionary roles or speaker slots that you'd like to fill. On the right-hand side of those options, you're going to find a blue button that says Sign Up. When you click on that blue button, that will put your name onto that slot, and it's done. If you want to add, if you're a speaker and you want to add things like your introduction, which speech you're working on, and some other information about your speech, you can fill that in and click the blue button right below that speaker slot. It says Update Meeting Notes. It'll update those notes, and those things will become visible to the Vice President of Education and the Toastmaster, who will be helping to officiate the meeting that you will be attending. I think I've covered most things about at the meeting. I think I've covered all the different roles. If you read those in here, you'll find out that there are more information on them. You will also, if you'll browse through the website, you'll see the various options that are available. What I'd also like you to do is consider the Competent Leadership Manual as a companion or a compendium to the competent communication goals that you're trying to accomplish. So, for instance, if you are going to sign up for a role, let's say, for instance, you're signing up for time management, project number 4. Time management, you need, in order to fill that project requirement, you need to do the timer, you need to complete the timer plus one other role. So there's timer, Toastmaster, speaker, topics master, or grammarian. Sign up for a timer, get that done out of the way, and somebody will help coach you through that if it's your first time. And then sign up for another one at another date. Sign up, for instance, as a topics master or a speaker, like an icebreaker. Project number 2, project number 3. And then go to project number 4 and see what it means to be an effective time manager. It'll give you a number of different things on how to manage time. Then it'll give you specific things to do for various assignment roles. When you are there at the meeting with your book, take your book to some other member in the club and say, I'm working on project number 4 as the timer. Would you do me a favor and evaluate me as the timer? When you give your reports, how you give your reports will be delivered to the club. The person who's completing your Competent Leader Manual evaluation for that particular project will write down some written observations, some feedback for you, and probably give you some oral feedback as well. And as a result of that, you will have both information in your Competent Leader Manual being completed and in your Competent Communication Manual. That way you're working on these things together. Because when you work on a functionary role, you are having the opportunity not only to speak, but to develop leadership skills that will enable you to be a more efficient leader as well.